Oh my god, headphone emoji. What is in your hand? You might be asking me. Well, this is my annotated lyric packet of Vanisher Horizon Scraper. What the heck? Wow, what an album, you guys. Wow. Can you take a guess about what we're gonna be talking about today? I have an idea. Is it album of the year? Probably. Many people have been waiting on this video. I have been excited to make this video for like a week and a half now. Can you see my handwriting? Look at that shit. Okay, let me compose myself so we can get into this. I'm gonna be using my hands a lot, and I'm gonna be holding this paper a lot. I'm gonna try to use the green screen. My hair is gonna be buggy. It's gonna blend in with it. My eyes might blend into it. You guys just have to be okay. Okay, it's gonna be okay. It's the personality that this channel has at this point. Before we get into this video, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Sanchi. I'm a big Quadeca fan, among other things, but we're talking about Quadeca today. This is my YouTube channel, Headphone Emoji, where I talk about music and music-related things. Today's music-related thing is obviously Quadeca. Oh my god, how many times am I gonna have to say his name in this video? Blah, 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 like, subscribe. We're gonna get into it. What the heck is Vanisher Horizon Scraper? What is this album? If you don't know, I've already made like literally 2 videos about Quadeca already, so if you don't know anything about Quadeca or this album, I implore you to watch those videos so I don't have to reiterate every single point that I'm gonna make, because we're really gonna get in deep into this album, in case you couldn't tell. But if you don't know, Quadeca is a music artist. He's like a indie folktronica whatever artist. He's like a YouTube rapper kind of, or at least he used to be like 10 years ago. Don't say that now or else he might like shoot you. I don't know. And Vanisher Horizon Scraper is his latest album. It came out last month. It came out July 25th, I think. I might be wrong on that. 25th, I think. So by the time this video comes out, it's gonna be like almost a month, like 3-ish weeks. If you want to read my like initial thoughts on the album, I did post a little like album review when the album came out. How many times am I gonna hold up this paper? I obviously have a lot more thoughts, a lot more to get into this album from past the first 10 listens of it. So I'm probably on listen like over 100 at this point. So let's just get into it. Okay, can you tell I'm so nervous to talk about this? I am so scared I'm gonna get a fact wrong. Please don't kill me if I get something wrong. This is my interpretation of the album. You guys can pick and choose whatever you choose to believe out of what I say. I know I'm not the first person to talk about this album. I know I'm not the first person to do a breakdown of this album. Other people have already beat me to it, but it's okay because they're my friends, so I allow it. But okay, oh my god, let me stop dancing around it. Let's actually talk about it. So the album starts off with No Questions Asked. No Questions Asked is purely instrumental for like the first 4 minutes, but after that is where we finally get some vocals, and it just says I'll be there when no one is, sorry. Kind of saying that there's like a loyalty between these 2 characters. There's kind of 2 storylines that are happening within this album. There's the storyline of the past, of this past lover, I believe. She's played, I don't know about played, but her voice is done by Olika or Autumn. She's a flautist. She plays the flute, but she has a really pretty voice, and so yeah, she does all of the like woman vocals that you hear in the album. And so she keeps on saying I'll be there where no one is, when no one is, I'll be there. I keep on saying where. I'll be there when no one is, I'll be there when no one is. And then Quadeca goes, no questions asked. So alluding that either she'll be there when no one is, this could have a double meaning. 1, he'll be there for her whenever, whatever. Or 2, because it's her voice playing in his ear, she's like always in his mind. I don't know. Just keep that in mind. Olika's character is, Olika? Her character is very important, I believe. I'm gonna get into it a little bit in the next song, which we're about to talk about, Waging War. Waging War has 2 parts to it, and it's like kind of where he starts actually setting sail on his journey, the Vanisher Horizon Scraper journey. And I'm gonna refer to Quadeca, but Quadeca also plays a character. He plays the sailor who's vanishing. He's the Vanisher. It's not Quadeca, but some songs are kind of Quadeca. It's like a little bit confusing, but we'll get into it. Okay, Waging War. The first lyrics, who am I to the closing door, blah, blah, blah. Who am I when the motion stops? And then who am I when the light is low and there's no horizon? It's kind of giving like a past, present, future moment. You know, who am I to the closing door that's been keeping score? And who am I when the motion stops and I can't ignore? And the light is low and there's no, the horizon is the future. right? Keep that in mind because that imagery pulls up a lot of this horizon. And the horizon is like looking out into the distance, it's the future. And then he also asks, who am I when I'm high? This song talks a lot about being high, if I'll be honest. So essentially this, our sailor, our Vanisher, while he's on the ocean, he tends to get high a lot and he tends to get drunk a lot, which we'll talk about in a minute, but focus on the fact that he gets high right now. And when he's high, he sees himself parting the sea like he's Moses or something, right? He's in this like trance. He has these visuals where he's kind of going insane, but not really. He's like starting to get that like, not seasickness, but like mental seasickness? I don't know if that's a thing. And then now as the song progresses, Alika's vocals get more introduced to it. And also something that I noticed, a lot of the songs, even if they don't have her vocals in it, they do have flute in it, which I think is just, aside from her being a part of the album, I think it's that mental reminder of her always being there whenever he's hearing the flute. So I think that's so interesting. I really like her flute vocals. Flute and vocals, not her flute vocals. I don't think that's a thing. So anyways, in the chorus, there's Alika saying, breathe, it's your own advice. She's like kind of telling him to calm down. He's probably getting the high paranoias. I don't know, I've never gotten high, but I assume something like that. And then she keeps on saying like common solutions, but they won't suffice. Common solutions either being him getting high to run away from his problems, or common solutions being, a lot of this album kind of alludes to suicide. I don't know if I can say that word yet, but deals a lot with death, deals a lot with suicide. So one thing that she could also be calling a common solution is, you know, jumping into the ocean. Again, in verse 2, there's another lyric kind of about parting the sea, saying the open door, and then there's another lyric that's alluding to a blinking light, which is probably a lighthouse because there is a lighthouse visual in this song. Right after that, it talks about a raging storm, which we will get into a little bit later, but I find it interesting that that's a little tidbit, little sprinkled in at the very beginning of the album. And then it's halfway through this song, not exactly halfway, but it's like the break between part 1 and part 2 of the song, where we get this crazy visual switch into this like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like a visual when he's high. That's what I interpret from it, is like he's high and he's seeing things now. Because that makes sense, right? That would make sense. It's this like, everything is blue. Everything is blue. There's like a heart behind him, like this crazy like animated heart, and it's a crazy visual. It's so cool. It's never seen again throughout the entirety of the album, movie, or the album in general. So I just found that very interesting. I think it's a cool little interesting moment. I don't really know what to say about it, but there's a lot of him just talking to himself and his own thoughts, as he says, so you took a couple lives but you don't know how to die. Not that he's talking to himself, but that he's talking to depression, or he's talking to his mental illness, being like, yeah, you took a couple lives but you're not going to take mine, is basically what he's saying. So he's like, he's aware that he's dealing with these emotions. That's why he's going out to sea, to kind of midlife crisis. The next song perfectly encapsulates this, called Ruin My Life. Ruin My Life is more of an acoustic song. It's the only sort of acoustic song, except for Forgone, but that's more of like a ballad, but we'll get into that one at the end. Now, Ruin My Life is actually really important to the lore, which I didn't think about it the first time, but the visuals are pretty important, kind of, and more importantly, the lyrics are important because it's a song that gets referenced to a lot more in future songs. I tried drawing up this little visual for us to see how all of the songs are connected, but my marker died. So yeah, in case anybody was curious on how the songs connect to each other, the pink lines are references to God, the orange lines are references to each other, I think. I think the blue lines are references to each other. I actually don't remember what any of this means. It makes more sense in my head. So, yeah. Anyways, back to the actual album. Getting into Ruin My Life, he starts off saying that he's young. When I was young, when I was naive, talking about he was literally just a kid and he had so much life to live. But now he feels kind of older and he's like, man, I kind of wasted my whole life. And then there's the potato eye lyric. Okay, I didn't understand this lyric at first because I was like, why is this man talking about potatoes? And I thought that was so funny. But then somebody explained it to me and I was like, oh, okay, that's actually like kind of deep. So he says, rotten eyes can see, the potato skin looks after me. So he's all alone at sea, right? The only thing that's keeping him company is potato, and when potatoes get rotten, they start growing eyes, or we call them eyes, they're like little sprouts or whatever. So the potato skin, the eye on the potato skin is looking after him. I think that's so sweet. But what else is important about this song is it's where we have our first mention of God. Now, God is not something that Quadeca has mentioned much in his previous music. So it was very interesting and very striking to me when I heard it the first time, especially in this song, because I was like, whoa. I was kind of taken aback. And the lyric goes, "'Cause with his back turned to God, hung up his sign." The sign being the sun in this case. Now, there's a lot of sun imagery at the beginning of the album, which we are going to get into in a minute, because I think it's really important, because the sun is also this unreachable thing like the horizon, and he's always facing the sun at the beginning of when he's going out to sea, right? He's following the sun. And then he says, "So I might have to ruin my life to make it mine." That's the lyric of the song. But he realizes that he's finding this freedom in the ocean, this freedom that he wouldn't have found on land. And in that sense, he kind of needs the sea, because it's the only place where he really feels like he is himself. He is the sailor, he is the vanisher. And now this is just my theory, okay? I think that this rotten potato is making him go into a psychosis, because we see further and further into this album that he is low-key going into a psychosis, and I think it's all because of the potato. I'm telling you guys, it's all because of the potato. And then we get this bridge, which is voiced by Harry Wilkinson of Maruja. Maruja? I think it's Maruja, that's all I've seen other people say. But he says, "I was picked first on the losing team. I was everything but in between," saying that he's either like the first of the worst or he's the last of the best. There's no in between. He's not just all right. If that makes sense. I don't know if that made sense. I hope it did. But he says, "Where the background will set me free," the background being the sea, setting him free. There's a lot of just references to escapism in this song, saying that he needs to ruin his life to make it mine, and then saying, "What have you done?" Probably like his subconscious wondering if he's really up for this journey that he's going on, because he doesn't have an end goal in sight. He's just going out to sea for as long as he can. And we see that especially in the next song, "GODSTAINED." Now, "GODSTAINED" was the first single on the album. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the song "GODSTAINED." I feel like it is the most palatable song. I think every song on this album is so good, but I feel like if you were to introduce this album to anyone, I would probably use "GODSTAINED," probably because it was the first single. Maybe I have bias, I don't know. But let's get into the song, because it kind of has a double meaning. It's both about a bottle that he finds in the ocean, and it's essentially about his lover, Miss Olika, his lover in the story. So he says, "Fiberglass solution, there's a message on your skin," talking about the solution that the bottle had, and then the message on the skin being like the literal label on the bottle. And again, we get the obvious mention of God, "GODSTAINED." So just another interesting little tidbit. We get more mentions of God, which we'll continue to see throughout this album. He says, like, "Show me what I'm missing from the land you couldn't stay," probably being the land that he's literally not able to be on anymore, because he's so far out at sea at this point. And it's like he's kind of missing land a little bit. He's kind of missing his ex a little bit, but he has this bottle. And then he says, like, "I thought you knew," thinking that the bottle had more to it. Maybe there would be a message in it. Maybe there would be a little trinket in it. Maybe just something to connect him to someone else. But instead, it's just him and this empty bottle that he found at sea. He says, "No matter how much I feel like the paper and plastic, I can still find a way to get back to you," saying that he is floating in the ocean like the paper and the plastic in the ocean. He feels lost at sea. He's potentially looking for her. He's potentially running away from her. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. Maybe he's considering going back to her. I mean, I feel like at this point in the album, he still has the chance to turn around, but he won't. So, you know, again, he says, "I thought you knew everything," thinking that maybe he would get some answers out of this bottle. But yeah, he has nothing. It's just a bottle in the ocean. And then we also get Olika's vocals come back in, maybe being another memory in his head, before he goes into this sort of like YouTube rap-esque moment, which is just really funsies. And then the song ends, and we're almost halfway through the album, or the story of the album. The next song being "At a Time Like This," my favorite song on the album, maybe not my favorite, my second favorite song on the album. This has like so many parts to it. I think it's so fun. He starts off with saying mixed in the glass till I end up on a list. The glass probably being the glass bottle from the last song. He's probably using it to store his alcohol, maybe? I don't know. And then saying till I end up on a list. What list? Probably a list of dead soldiers, probably a list of missing persons. Not that list, though, I'll tell you that. And then he says, spirits on the floor till they learn to coexist. Spirits could be a reference to, like, I didn't mean to haunt you. Spirits could be a reference to ghosts. Probably not. It's probably a reference to spirits, like alcohol. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of little moments which could be references to I didn't mean to haunt you, and I think that's, I don't know if, I don't think that the albums are connected. Maybe they're like in the same multiverse or something. They're not explicitly connected, obviously. They're not talking about the same characters. Maybe they're characters in the same universe though. So I like to think that they all live in the QMU, the Quadeca musical universe. I don't know. And then the actual verse, the actual lyrics start where he says, the old timer told me not to bother. He told me getting old would take way longer. Probably a reference to, not really, but kind of a reference to Ruin My Life, which, like I said, Ruin My Life gets a lot of references because there's a lot of references to getting older throughout this album. But he keeps on talking about this old timer, which could be a crew member that was there, and maybe he's dead now. Maybe that's why he's so scared to die. He talks about this kind of like old timer as like maybe he was a grandparent, maybe because he says spoken like the father of a father, so maybe it was his grandfather, or maybe it was someone else's grandfather. I don't know. He's like so far out at sea, he's kind of going insane at this point. He says MIA, put him on VHF, tell him send them my way. VHF is like ocean radio, basically, which we get a reference to in a couple songs after this. But he's kind of like, it reminds me of that one, or actually the multiple Vanisher calls that we got for calling the X8 number, where they were like talking about marine radio and stuff. And so maybe it's a reference to that. And then he says, God stained my body. So it's another reference to God stained, another reference to God. I personally think the whole God thing is he's like all alone at sea, right? So he's turning to God, he's turning to faith, because he's all alone. I don't know. We'll see later on in the album. I just think that's cool. There's more talking about just like substance abuse, kind of more talking about drinking, more talking about alcohol throughout the first half of the song. He says, why bother filling an abyss? What's the fun of dying at a time like this? Probably alluding to all the other dead sailors, the dead sailors, sorry, who've gone on this journey before him. And he's like, low-key, what's the point? Why am I even out here? But he's already out here, so might as well. And he's starting to kind of accept that maybe death is the inevitable end to his journey. We see this especially with the outro of the song, because it says, there goes the wind, turn the engine, it's a gorgeous island. And then the next song is Monday, where he's docked on an island. So what I seem to understand from this is he found a little island, they found a little island, and they're gonna take a little break. They're gonna stop, they're gonna rethink their decisions, maybe. Because the song Monday itself, I've already talked extensively about the song Monday itself, but the song is a lot about missing an ex. And so maybe he's out there and he's missing her a little bit. He mentions God again, saying, God, I'm losing my grip on the runway, losing control of his own thoughts. He kind of talks about like their relationship a little bit between him and his ex. Or the girl who he left behind, whatever they may be. I'm pretty sure it's not. Talking about how it's like kind of been a year now, and he goes through all of the seasons, right? He starts off saying it's that time of the year where I start getting old, and then he says it's the time of the year where there's smoke in my breath, and then it's the time of the year where I put on my hat. So he's going through all the seasons, talking about all the seasons, kind of talking about how like every attempt that he had at trying to love her was eventually futile because she was just taking everything the wrong way. And then we get another mention to the sun, where he says the light's getting strong and it's blocking my path. He's kind of blinded by these feelings that he's having, and it's blocking him from this journey that he's going on. And of course, like the sun is glinting off the ocean and he physically can't see. That's probably why he's wearing a hat. Love the song. Really sad song, but I think in general it's a good transition to the next song, which is Dancing Without Moving. And this is also a song that I find to be probably one of the most important songs in the lore again, which you probably wouldn't understand from first listen. He's saying that he's had this feeling since the age of 2, where he might as well do his dance without a crew. Either the lyric is either crew or clue. It said both on Genius, so I didn't know which one to go with. But if he's saying that he's dancing without a clue, he's kind of just doing whatever his instincts are. And then if he's dancing without a crew, his crew is probably dead, which we've already kind of established at this point. But then there's another lyric where he says the shooting star only comes when there's sun out. So it's another lyric that mentions the sun. But then literally right after is where, but the thing is, in this album, or in this song, in the music video for this song, it's dark and there is no sun. And there's kind of no more light for like the rest of the track, or it's very heavily edited to look like it's dark outside. So I feel like this is that turning point in the album where things are starting to get darker. Things are very much starting to get darker. We get a little double entendre. The waves feel like bye-bye, because waves like a wave, and then waves like a wave. Very cool of him, very lyricist of him. But he's talking about how he's like self-isolated, of course. And then there's another mention of God. Oh my God, there's another mention of God. He says, I felt God when the power box was switched off. So essentially, he's saying that he felt God. He was like at the mercy of everything because the power was gone. It's dark outside. He's on the ship. He's at the mercy of the waves. This is again where we see that he's kind of giving up his autonomy and he's giving it all to the ocean at this point of the album. And he talks about just being in like continuous cycles, you know, dancing without moving is talking about the sky going in circles, but the sky isn't moving, of course. He says, again, there's another lyric. He says, I want to see you get low with the setting sun. And then it says, now come alive from inside the moon. So we switch from sun to moon at this part in the song. And that is a really important distinction because from now on, there are no, if there are, they're very minuscule mentions of the sun, and it's fully moon imagery from here on out. And at the very end, at the very, very end, we have Harry Wilkinson again saying there's a man on the horizon, paradise just behind him, but if he turns around, it disappears. The paradise being the life that he left behind, or it could be the Monday Island. But he's officially his left shore once again. He is the man on the horizon. He is the horizon scraper. He is the vanisher. And this is where we get into That's Why, where honestly, for this album, I don't know what That's Why has to do with the lore, aside from being the snippet of That's Why, all right, don't get any better than this life, which is still forever my favorite snippet. But the song itself, oh my God, wholly hard-hitting. The first two verses are just crazy. He starts off saying, I switched from sit around when I was 16. My hair's been falling out since I was 16. He talks a lot about his hair loss, I'm not gonna lie. But he basically talks about how he was really stressed out as a kid, and that's probably why he's grown so much since then. He talks about it not just in this song, but in other songs too, where he talks about how he found fame at a very young age, and that caused him to kind of have this weird perception of the world around him, which is a lot of what this song itself talks about, really. And then in verse 2, he gets a lot more deeper, a lot more darker, talking about like attempting and stuff. He says, because if I jump, I might survive, and that's what scares me the most. What I witness from afar only scares me close. What's only been keeping me afloat is a rope. And then that brings us to the interlude of the album, which is I Dream About Sinking, where he falls into the ocean and he has to grab this rope, which was just mentioned, and That's Why. But that is our halfway point in the album. He basically, the song itself is very dreamy, of course. It's very melodic. It's very ambient. I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels very peaceful, which is not what you would assume to feel when you were sinking. So it shows that he has kind of come to terms with the possibility of death. And we see that especially in the next song, which is Natural Causes, which is a very eerie sounding song. We first off in the song get a mention of Monday, saying somebody died on Monday, and then all of them died by Thursday, saying that whoever his crew was, or these other sailors were, I keep on wanting to say soldiers, but these other sailors, they're all dead. And then he's saying somebody's after me, somebody I can't see, which is a really small potential reference to the song right before, That's Why, where it says every mirror in my life makes another blind spot, saying that he can't see all of these other mirrors, all these other copies of him. But he says all of them natural causes, always natural. Natural being succumbing to the waves, succumbing to the ocean, succumbing to these natural causes of death, which is essentially all of this song is. It's kind of eerie, kind of scary. It gets really distorted as the song continues, and I think it is his inevitable breaking point as we get into Thunder. Now let me say, before anybody, I was the first Thunder fan. How do I know this? Because the second that tracklist dropped, I changed my username to Thunder because I knew that that song would be so good, and damn was I right. Thunder is the knots of the album. It is the standout of the album. It is rockish, it is harsh, it is brass, it is beautiful. I truly love this song with all my heart, and he is actually going to like this actual psychosis in the song where he thinks that he is some guy who can just control the weather. He thinks that he's like a Thunderbird. He thinks that he is God. He's on some sort of like aircraft carrier, which is not his sailboat, which makes me think that this is all some sort of hallucination that he's having. And the lyrics are very repetitive. They're very angry. He says, "You bring that out of me. You bring that out of me. You bring that out of me. You bring that out of me." And he goes on and on and on. And we finally get, "Don't look me in the eye. I love to steal your thunder." He'd love to steal other people's credit. I don't know who these other people are. Maybe it's God himself, probably, considering that the one and only verse of the song, well, first we have to talk about the bridge where he says, "Rain down on me, tell them all that I'm free, bow down around me," or bow down to me. I don't know what lyric is, but he thinks that he's some sort of higher power that can rival God. And as we see in the next lyric where he says, "Bad news, you can't make a man from a god, so don't mind me." So clearly this man is going insane and he thinks that he can actually control like thunderstorms. And it's immediately after that we are met with the great BAKUNAWA song featuring Danny Brown, who plays said BAKUNAWA. But it starts off with another mention of God, kind of. It's a sample that says God is coming, or Jah is coming. He's met with this BAKUNAWA, and what is that exactly? You might be asking me. That is a sea serpent, sea dragon sort of thing that eats the moon, according to Filipino lore. It usually comes about bringing bad weather, such as thunder. Such as thunder, along with like earthquakes and storms and all that stuff. So that is your itty bitty super mini mythology crash course brought to you by me. And of course, Danny Brown's verse, crazy as always, very on the nose this time, saying, "Trying to get you out your circle every day of the week. Take the light from the dark, want to swim with the sharks." He says, "Take away with one bite, want to see an eclipse," because the BAKUNAWA would bring lunar eclipses. So that was really cool. That's really nice. Really cool little reference. Honestly, his whole verse is just filled with references to this mythology, talking about how music would deter it, how it would eat the moon. But then we get to like the chorus of the song, essentially, where he says, "There's a snake in your rear view, must be fate that I'm here to, I'll play the bait till he peers through." Kind of alluding that the BAKUNAWA is this test from God, because right before it, he was comparing himself to God. So God is like, "Okay, let me put this at you." So essentially, maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But the snake in the rear view is most obviously the sea snake that he has to fight now. And fight is exactly what they do. He says, "Tell me when's the last time we've seen one of these moon man fishing when he leaps out of the sea." This is like literally some creature from hell that God has taken up and thrown at our Vanisher. But he talks about how like low-key he should have recorded it, which kind of the way that he says it, because he talks about Apple Pay in this song, and it trips me up because I was like, wait, I thought that this was like kind of a time period-esque album where I was like, okay, maybe this takes place in like the 1960s or something. But then he's like, oh my god, they don't have Apple Pay, like what the heck. But the very end of the song, the sort of like interlude before the outro, is where we get another verse from Harry where he says, "With open arms I welcome you." And this is where I really want to introduce Harry's character, because from what I understand from his character, I find him to be some sort of death, kind of, maybe like a personification of death, because his voice feels very distant throughout the album, if that makes sense. The way that it's like mixed, it feels like he's right behind you always. And I think that the feature of Maruja is this personification of the death that is following our Vanisher. Like he says, "With my shears exposed, cutting the ribbon, the grand opening of the end." And now we're brought into Forgone. So Forgone, this was a song that really stumped me for a long time. I like the song, I really do, but I just didn't see how it fit into the album until about like 20 minutes ago. I needed to have my friend like fully explain it to me because I didn't understand how it fit into the album. I was like, it's a good song, but like, so Forgone is this ballad. It is this expellation. I don't think that's a word. He is expelling all of his emotions. To me, it feels like this final release. It feels like, you know, when your life flashes before your eyes, or a certain moment will flash before your eyes right before you kind of die. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about because you've all had near-death experiences in the ocean. It feels like that. It feels like a dream, kind of. It feels like one last white flag, kind of, before like the surrender. I don't know if any of what I just said made sense, but the song itself, very sad. We all know how it is. It is the penultimate song in the album, and it very much sounds as so. It's a really good song, but again, I don't really know if there are any lyrics to the song that kind of flow with the story of the album. It's kind of feels like a dream, if anything. Okay, but let's get into our final song, Casper. Casper could either, to me, be a reference to the ghost being an I Didn't Mean to Haunt You reference, or it could be a reference to the painter that painted that one painting of the guy looking out into the sea. His name was Casper. So I feel like that's probably what it's more likely a reference to, but I don't know. This is a song that features Marusha, and he has a lot of verses in it. This is also a song that kind of ties the whole album together. In a sense, it has a lot of references to other songs. Very teeny tiny references, but references to other songs nonetheless. There's an interpolation of Fantasy World, which again makes me think that the songs are connected, but I don't know, guys. He says, you were born with a lot to correct. You were born with a puzzle to solve. You were not high, you just became a child. Which is all references to other songs, like At a Time Like This, and Waging War, and Ruin My Life. And then he talks about Overgrown Grass, which is probably a reference to songs like Monday, or No Questions Asked. He says, the horizon is a prey like animal that preys on men who prey like animals. Oh, I love him. He's always, our Vanisher is always chasing the horizon. He just can't grasp it. He's venturing out into the ocean, and eventually our Vanisher succumbs to the waves. He suffered his whole life, and he just can't anymore. And that's the thing, he knows that he's dying. This is his like final last breath before Harry Wilkinson pulls him into the ground. Not the ground, the ocean. But it's the last like minute of the album where it's just pure sound, pure noise, which is crazy visually because the colors are shifting so much. He's going in and out of the water. The sky is red. He knows that he's dying, and he finally goes underwater, and we hear these waves just crashing by. We hear this wind whooshing through our ears, and then the album loops in on itself, and we're brought back to the waves of No Questions Asked. And that is Vanisher. It is the story of a man who loses himself and finds himself again, and loses himself again, and eventually loses to the waves. It is about a man who deals with depression. It is a man that deals with psychosis. It is a man that deals with the trials and tribulations of life. And it's such a good album, and it's so beautiful, and I don't know if I'll ever understand every intricacy of it. So that was a lot. I don't know how long this video is gonna be. I hope you guys stayed all the way through. I hope you guys maybe have a better understanding of the album itself. Maybe not. I don't really know how well I explained all of that. It made more sense in my head. But many have been asking for the video, so here I am to deliver the video. This album has been festering in my mind for weeks on weeks. And to this day, I still don't understand it. I don't know if I ever will. Maybe by the end of the year, maybe by October, maybe by December, so I can talk about it, maybe make a follow-up video, maybe get an interview, I don't know. I definitely know I'll at least be talking about this album one more time at the end of the year. This is Vanisher from how I understand it. Hopefully I explained it to you. TLDR of it is basically this guy goes out into the ocean and he dies. Ta-da! I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next week. Bye!